Hello and good morning friends, welcome to the CC EduSet live lecture. Dear friends, with our ongoing series on microeconomics, today we would be talking on average cost pricing in the first session, whereas in the second session we would be discussing on limit pricing. And for this very discussion we have once again with us in our studios Dr. Kamlesh Gakkar. Dr. Kamlesh Gakkar is a professor in Institute of Management Studies and Research, Maharishi Dayanand University, Rohtak. So let's welcome Dr. Kamlesh Gakkar and let's try to have a very vivacious session. Hello ma'am, welcome to the EduSet lecture.
Thank you. Dear viewers, today I am going to tell you about average cost pricing. Average cost pricing models have been developed by various economists. Their basic feature is the postulate that price is set according to average cost principle. So price is equal to average variable cost plus gross profit margin, and both AVC plus GPM is equal to average cost of production. So the firm sets the price equal to its average cost, which includes a certain net profit margin. In this, what are the goals of the firm? In average cost theories of pricing, it is explicitly or implicitly assumed that the goal of the firm is long run profit maximization. It is recognized that short run profit maximization by equating MC to MR in each period does not result in profit maximization in the long run. So long run profit maximization is attained by equating price to the average cost of the firm. Long run cost schedule cannot be estimated correctly due to rapidly changing technology and factor prices. So the firm takes its decisions on the basis of short run average costs. It is also assumed that short run average variable cost has a flat stretch. This is shown in figure 1. This reflects the fact that firms build into their plant some reserve capacity which allows them flexibility in their operations. Reserve capacity is needed to meet seasonal fluctuations in demand, to have smooth flow of production, to meet a growing demand until further expansion of scale is realized, to allow some flexibility for minor alterations of the style of the product, etc. Now in figure 1 we have shown that AVC, firstly it is declining, then it is constant over a range, and actually this is the flat stretch of AVC. After that it is rising. When AVC is falling, SMC is below it, and in the flat part of the AVC, MC is also equal to it, and when SAVC is rising, SMC is above it, and SATC is above the SAVC. So this is the shape of SAVC, SMC and SATC. Now how the price is determined? That is according to the markup rule. There are two stages of price determination. Firstly, the firm defines the price it would like to charge in order to cover its total cost when its plant is operated within its optimal range of capacity and earn a reasonable profit. Secondly, the firm compares its estimated price with the level of price at which entry would occur and sets the price level at a level P star which would effectively deter entry. Subjective estimate of the desired price is equal to price is equal to AVC plus GPM. It is assumed that the firm knows its average variable cost and concentrates on the straight stretch of the SAVC curve, which represents the normal utilization of its plant capacity. The firm aims at long run profit maximization but bases its price on short run average variable cost. Short run average cost is considered to be a good approximation of the long run AC. So, gross profit margin covers the average fixed cost and a normal profit. So, GPM is equal to AFC plus NPM, and AFC is average fixed cost, which is calculated by dividing the total fixed cost by a planned or normal level of output M star. At this output, there is a normal utilization of the plant. So, AFC is equal to TFC divided by M star, and M star is the planned or budgeted or normal output. And net profit margin is that which a firm should yield a fair return on the capital. The addition of AVC, AFC and NPM gives an estimate of the desired price. Now, the desired price may or may not be actually charged. The level of actual price actually depends upon the demand and cost conditions, as well as what is the type of competition prevailing in the industry. When firms in the industry have different costs, pricing on the basis of average cost may result in the market instability and price wars. To avoid price wars, firms follow the price set by the leader firm. The price leader sets the price according to the average cost, but will actually charge a price P star, which depends upon potential competition and general economic conditions. If there are barriers to entry, P star will be higher than the normal price. On the other hand, if the threat of potential entry is strong, the quoted price P star will be equal to the leader's normal price. GPM is also adjusted on the basis of market conditions. Now, in figure 2, we have shown how the price is determined. We have shown SAVC, SATC and SMC, and we have taken output on x-axis and price and cost are on the y-axis. Now, the price which is desired is OP, which is actually the average cost plus net profit margin, but the actual price may be different from it. We have already seen that if there is no threat of the entry or if there are barriers to entry, then the actual price charged will be OP star, in which we find that the profit is AC per unit. So, profits will be very high for the existing firms if there are barriers to entry. But if there is a threat of potential entry, then the price charged would be less. This is OP 2 star, and here we find that the profit is AD per unit as compared to AC, and in the desired price it is AB per unit profit. Now, we will see how there are predictions in average cost pricing theory in changing market conditions. Firstly, we take the case of change in costs. Change in costs may be substantial or minor. When the changes in cost are substantial, price is accordingly changed. When the costs fall significantly on account of technical progress or fall in factor prices, prices are decreased accordingly. In the similar way, when the costs are increasing too much, then prices are also increased. But if the fall or rise in costs is not much, if that is minor, then the price may not be changed. and we find that when costs are decreased, then naturally what would happen, that the price charged would be the same, and in case of rise in cost, firm will make changes in the quality or quantity of the product and they will not raise the price. So we have seen that changes in price will be done only if there are large increases or decreases in the cost. Otherwise, the firms will keep the price same and may change the quantity or quality of the product. You have seen in the market that sometimes you find that at the same price quality is reduced or the quantity is reduced. So this means that the cost may have increased but the firms are keeping the same price. In the similar way, if the costs have declined due to fall in factor prices or due to some other reason, but the firm goes on charging the same price, but they can provide us better quality of the product or the quantity may be increased instead of changing the price. So this was about the change in cost conditions. In so far as the change in demand is concerned, although demand has no role in price determination in average cost pricing model, it nonetheless influences the amount of output which a firm would sell in the short run. If the demand for the product of a firm increases in the short run, it generally prefers not to change the price. But if the increase in demand is persistent, the firm may expand its capacity by obtaining new equipment. If LAC is L-shaped, price will remain same. In case of decline in demand for the product, the firm will produce less and have higher cost, but it will not charge more. In case of persistent decline in demands, the most efficient firms would survive in the long run due to price wars. To sum up, we can say average cost pricing theory says that prices are usually sticky. Now what happens if there is a imposition of tax? When there is a corporate tax imposed like lump sum tax or profit tax, it will affect all the firms in the similar way, and whenever these taxes are imposed, prices will be raised and the burden of the tax is shifted to the consumers. So whether it is a specific tax or it is a lump sum tax, we find that prices are increased by the proportion or by the amount by which the taxes are there. It depends upon again the elasticity of demand, etc., that how much price increase will be there. But definitely prices will rise and burden will be shifted to the customers. Now the average cost pricing theory has told us that burden will be shifted. And what is the criticism of this average cost pricing? Many empirical studies have lent support to the average cost pricing practices in a large number of industries. This does not establish that average cost pricing is a theory distinctly different from other pricing theories. Average cost pricing practices are compatible with all hypotheses pertaining to explain the behavior of the firm. The empirical studies suggest in the modern industrial world, average cost pricing is widely adopted by the firms. Secondly, firms don't adjust prices immediately to change in demand or costs. Burden of corporate taxes is shifted to the buyers. Prices remain sticky over long periods despite changes in demand and costs. Firms have multiple goals and not the single goal of profit maximization. Now, if the long run profit maximization is the single goal of the firm, average cost pricing would lead to the same equilibrium which is reached by applying marginal analysis. When the firms apply the markup rule, we have seen that price is equal to AVC plus GPM. AVC is the average variable cost and GPM is gross profit margin. When marginal analysis is applied, the necessary condition for profit maximization is MC is equal to MR, that marginal cost is equal to marginal revenue. And we have seen that marginal revenue is equal to price multiplied by 1 minus 1 upon E. Now, we know that marginal cost is never 0. So, this means it will be positive, and because MC is equal to MR, this means MR must be positive for profit maximization. This implies that profits can be maximized only if elasticity is greater than 1. If elasticity is equal to 1, then in that case MR is equal to 0. And if elasticity is less than 1, then MR is less than 0 or MR is negative. And we know that MR should be positive. It should neither be 0 nor be negative, because marginal cost is not 0 or negative. So, for that matter, we can say that in both cases the maximization procedure breaks down because the necessary condition is violated if elasticity is equal to 1 or it is less than 1. So, this means elasticity must be greater than 1. And we see that at the point of equilibrium, average variable cost is equal to marginal cost, because the price chart is equal to the average cost of production, and we have seen that we are taking the short run average variable cost. Now, AVC is equal to MC and MC is equal to MR. So, we can say that AVC is equal to marginal revenue, and AVC is equal to, instead of MR now we put P into 1 minus 1 upon E, or this is P is equal to P into 1 minus 1 upon E, or P is equal to AVC into E upon E minus 1. So, price is equal to average variable cost multiplied by E upon E minus 1. Now, we know that elasticity is always greater than 1. So, the term in the brackets is always greater than unity. So, what you can say that E upon E minus 1 will be greater than unity, or this will be equal to 1 plus K, where K is greater than 0. So, therefore, price is equal to average variable cost multiplied by 1 plus K, where K is the gross profit margin. For example, if the firm sets 30% of its AVC as its profit margin, we have 1 plus K is equal to 1 plus 0.30, and we know that this 1 plus K is equal to E upon E minus 1. So, solving for E or elasticity of demand, we find that elasticity of demand is 4.33, because we have taken that 1 plus 0.3 as E upon E minus 1. So, if you calculate this, you will get the elasticity of demand is 4.33. Thus, setting a gross profit margin is tantamount of establishing the price elasticity of demand and then applying the marginalist analysis. So, dear students, what we have seen here that actually in the real life, in the oligopoly markets, price is not set according to the marginal cost and marginal revenue equality, because the demand conditions are uncertain. You are not certain about the behavior of the rival firms also. So, what happens that instead of equating MC is equal to MR, price is equated to the average cost of production, and this average cost is actually the short run average cost, because long run average cost is difficult to find out or long run cost schedules are uncertain. So, average cost, this is average variable cost plus average fixed cost plus net profit margin. So, naturally the firms find it easy to calculate the average cost of production. It is not easy to calculate the elasticity of demand, or the business firms don't have the knowledge of the elasticity of demand concept which is used in the marginal analysis. So, they make use of the average cost pricing, and this price is sometimes set by the leader firm. Why? Because if all the firms set their own prices according to their average cost, then what would happen? There will be different prices, there will be price wars, and whenever there are price wars, the firms are the losers, no doubt customers are the gainers. So, the business firm relies their interdependence and give the right to the leader firm to set the price according to the average cost of production, and other firms follow it. And there have been several reasons put forward to justify the average cost routine of pricing. Firstly, it is easier to apply the concept of average cost pricing rather than the concept of elasticity. Just now I have told you that it is not easy for the businessman to know about or to have the knowledge of the concept of elasticity. Secondly, average cost rules facilitate price setting in multiple product firms. In these firms, it is difficult to get information about the price elasticity of all products. You know, today's firms are producing multiple products. They are not only producing one type of the product, and here also it is difficult to know the elasticity of all products. So, they make use of the average cost pricing rule. Then trade associations often publicize information of the costs of individual product lines. Fourthly, with the rules of average cost pricing, a firm learns to anticipate fairly, accurately the reactions of competitors to changes in business environment. You know, firms must have some knowledge of the reactions of the other firms whenever one firm changes the price or it changes the output, etc. If it knows how the others will behave, then it can find out whether its profit will rise or fall, and this is also possible only when the average cost pricing rule is followed. So, we have seen now that average cost rules of pricing are useful for avoiding uncertainty and to coordinate in the market. And when price is set according to the average cost of production, there are certain or there is some profit for the firm also, which is necessary for a firm to operate. So, you have seen here that every firm has some reserve capacity, and it generally produces over the range where there is optimal use of the plant, and some profit is also there for all the firms. Otherwise, due to price wars, there would be firms which would have to leave the industry. So, that is why they follow the price set by the leader, which is equal to the average cost of production. Thank you. Dear students, in this module, I am going to tell you about the theory of limit pricing. To avoid the entry of new firms, existing firms don't charge the monopoly price. Rather, they charge the price below the monopoly price, which is called limit price. Theory of limit price was given by Bain, Psilocybin and Modigliani. We will discuss these three models. So, firstly, we are going to discuss about Bain's early model. Bain's article, Oligopoly and Entry Prevention, is rightly considered to be a seminal work in limit pricing. In this article, he explained why firms did not charge the price that would maximize their profits. This meant that firms set their price at a level of demand where the elasticity was below unity. The traditional theory rules out this possibility because according to Bain, it made a significant omission from the pricing decision, namely the threat of potential entry. Bain maintains that firms determine a price at a level below the short-run profit maximizing monopoly price and above the long-run average cost, which equals pure competition price. This price is appropriately called limit price because the established firms believe that they can charge it without inducing entry. Bain's model is based on many assumptions. Number one is there is a determinate long run demand curve for the industry's output, which is unaffected by price adjustments of sellers or by entry. Hence, the marginal revenue curve is also determinate. There is effective collusion among the established oligopolists. The established firms can compute a limit price below which entry will not occur. The limit price depends upon the estimation of the cost of potential entrants, on the market elasticity of demand, on the shape and level of the LAC, on the size of the market, on the number of firms in the industry. Above the limit price, entry is attracted, and there is a considerable uncertainty concerning the sales of the established firms post entry. The established firms aim at maximization of their long run profit. In the model, we have taken that there is no collusion with the new entrant, and we have shown this in figure 1. We have drawn here that market demand curve is DABD1 and the corresponding marginal revenue is DAB1. So, we can see here that in figure 1 we have taken output on x-axis, on y-axis we have taken price, cost and revenue. So, the price which is calculated by the established firms at which no entry would occur is OPL, while if there is a monopoly and the long run average cost is LAC1 is equal to LMC1, and according to this the price charged would be OPM. This is the monopoly price, but price is not kept OPM. Why? Because the part DA of the demand curve is uncertain, because in this range at this price there will be new entrants and there is uncertainty regarding how much the firm would be able to sell in the market. So, the part DA is uncertain and this OPM lies in this range. At OPM price there is fear of entry of new firms. So, the relevant part of the demand curve is AD1, and accordingly we have the marginal revenue curve, and when LAC1 and LMC1 price is monopoly price OPM, but this will not be charged. Price charged will be OPL, which is the limit price. But supposing if the long run cost curve is quite below, if it is LAC2 is equal to LMC2, then you see that the monopoly price is OPM2 and this is lower than the limit price. Here the limit price is not at all operative. So, thus we have seen that the limit price is calculated by the existing firms taking into account the costs of the production of new entrants. Normally the firm will not set a price where elasticity is less than 1, because this implies that MR is negative. But if the limit price is low, then even the price can be set at a point where elasticity is less than 1. This is shown in figure 2. If OPL is OPL star, you see here at this point elasticity of demand is less than 1. How we come to know? Because at this point the marginal revenue is negative. It is at B star. So, MR is negative in this case, and the OPM is above, but OPL is lower than OPM and elasticity is negative, but this price will be charged because of the fear of the entry of new firms. So, this has shown that even price can be set in the range where elasticity is less than 1 or MR is negative. Now, given the entry preventing price PL, the alternatives open to established firms are three: to charge a price equal to PL and prevent entry, to charge a price below PL and prevent entry, or to charge a price above PL and take risks associated with ensuring entry. So, the firm will choose the alternative which maximizes profits. So, this was about the Bain model of limit pricing. Now, we will see what is the model given by Psillos-Lebeni. Psillos-Lebeni developed a model of limit pricing based on scale barriers to entry. He concentrated his analysis on the case of a homogeneous oligopoly whose technology is characterized by technical discontinuities and economies of scale. This model is based on a large number of assumptions. These are: the market demand is given and has unitary elasticity. The product is homogeneous and will be sold at a unique equilibrium price. Technology consists of three types of plants with different capacities. The cost decreases with increase in the plant size. Due to technical discontinuities, cost curves are linear. All firms wish to have at least a minimum of normal profit. The price is set by the largest firm which produces at the lowest cost. The price is high enough to cover the costs of all existing firms and at the same time low enough to prevent entry. The price leader knows the market demand and cost structure of all plant sizes. The entrant joins the industry with the smallest size plant. Existing firms believe that the potential entrant will join industry only if he thinks that post-entry price will not fall below his long-run average cost. The entrant expects that the established firms will maintain their output level in the post-entry period. So, on the basis of all these assumptions, Psillos-Lebeni has given his model. Now, how the price is determined? Now, the price is set by the leader firm and this price must be acceptable to all types of the firms which are in existence. And we have seen that we have taken that there are three sizes of the plants. So, the highest capacity plant produces at the lowest cost and accordingly. So, the price is set that even the firm which is having the highest cost is also covering the cost of production plus having some normal rate of profit. So, price is set equal to TAC1 into 1 plus R. So, TACI is the actually the total average cost of the ith plant or the plant which is giving the highest cost of production, naturally plus some profit must be there for that firm. So, this is the price which will be acceptable to all. So, this implies that the lowest cost firm will be getting the highest profits and the highest cost firm will be getting profits which are lowest, but they are acceptable to this firm. So, now naturally the price will be set up in such a way that the new entrants don't come. They know that if they enter in the industry, price will fall below their average cost of production, so they don't want to enter. So that is why it is the limit price, and the entered firm can come only with the smallest size of the plant. So accordingly, this has been shown that how the price is determined. This is shown in figure 3. Now price and cost are shown on y-axis, and on x-axis we are showing output. Demand curve is given DD. We have AC of the smallest firm, which is the highest. ACM refers to the average cost of middle size plant, and AC2 the average cost of the highest plant, which is the lowest. Now the price will be set OPS plus some normal rate of profit. Now how this is to be seen? Now the limit price is actually, you will see that at price OPS, total demand is OQ. Now OQ3 is the output which must be done by the new entrant. So this OQ3 is deducted from OQ and we get OQ4, and on the basis of this output we see that from the demand curve we can find out what is the price. So OPL is the limit price. So you see that it is more than OPS, and this range will be between OP2 and OPL, but actually it should be more than OPS, because the smallest cost firm should also get some profits. But new firms would not come, because they know if they come, output would rise and price will fall, they will not be able to cover the average cost of production. The equilibrium price cannot be higher than OPL, as it would attract entry, and it cannot be less than OPS, because it will not be acceptable to the least efficient firms, as it will not cover their cost. In Silas model, there are 4 factors which determine the limit price. They are size of the market, price elasticity of market demand, technology determining the plant sizes in the industry, and 4th one is factor prices, which together with plant sizes determine the total average cost of the firm. Now we will see what is the Modigliani's model of limit pricing. Franco Modigliani presented a model of limit pricing which is considered a generalization of Silos model. This is also based on assumptions. Modigliani relaxed the restrictive assumptions of Silos model but retained the assumptions of scale barriers and behavioral pattern of Silos postulate. His assumptions are: the technology is same for all firms. In Silos model, there were 3 sizes of the plants available, but now here technology is same. There is a minimum optimal plant size M at which economies of scale are fully reaped. Once the optimum scale is reached, the LAC becomes a straight line. Under these conditions, LAC is L-shaped and is same for all the firms. So you see here in figure 4, output is on x-axis and on y-axis we have shown cost. LAC first goes on declining till we reach the output OM. So OM is the minimum output which must be done by a firm if it wants to produce at the lowest cost, and after that LAC becomes constant. So LAC is of this shape. Now entry occurs with minimal optimal plant size, product is homogeneous and market demand is known. The competitive price is OPC and competitive output OMC is determined at the level where demand curve intersects the flat part of LAC. In the long run, LAC is equal to OPC. This is shown in figure 5. The price is set by the largest firm in the industry at such a level as to prevent entry. The firms behave according to Silos postulate, that is, the existing firms expect that entrant cannot enter with a plant smaller than minimum optimal scale OM, and he will not enter if he believes that the price post entry will fall below the flat segment of LAC. The entrant expects that the established firms will keep their output constant at pre-entry level. So in figure 5, output is shown on x-axis and on y-axis we are showing the cost and price. In the left hand figure we have shown the firm, that this is LAC and OM is the minimum size of the plant, and the price, if the price is OPC, which is the competitive price, then the demand is OMC. But actually this is the competitive price, and how now in the model limit pricing is set. In figure 6, output is shown on x-axis, on y-axis we are showing price. This is the demand curve at competitive price, which is LAC is equal to PC. Here we find that demand is OMC. Now the limit price will be determined on the basis of the minimum size of the plant X. So this is MMC part, which is equal to the minimum output to be done by the firm. This is reduced. This is deducted from OMC and we get OM. At this output the price is OPL. So this is the limit price being determined by the model given by Modigliani. At this price new firms would not like to enter. The scale barriers cause limit price to be greater than the competitive price. The difference between OL minus OPC is the entry gap or premium and defines the amount by which the price can exceed the LAC without attracting entry. The determinants of entry gap and entry preventing prices are the same as stated by Silos for determining the limit price. That depends upon the number of the firms, market elasticity of demand, etc. Modigliani reaches the same conclusion as Silos, namely there is a determinate equilibrium price PL, which is the limit price which prevents the entry of new firms. It is positively correlated with X bar. X bar refers to the minimum size of the plant or the scale barrier. So the higher the size of the minimum plant, higher would be the limit price, and it is also positively correlated to the competitive price, which is equal to the long run average cost. This means higher the long run average cost, higher will be the price, lower the long run average cost, lower will be the price, and it is negatively correlated with market size. This means if the market size is a large one, then the price set as the limit price would be low. And this also depends upon the elasticity of demand. It is negatively correlated with elasticity of demand. This means higher the elasticity, lower the limit price, lower the elasticity, higher will be the price. So, dear students, in this lecture we have seen that instead of charging a monopoly price, limit price is charged by the established firms so that new firms don't enter, because they know if they enter, price would fall and they would not be able to cover the long run average cost. And we have done the model given by Bain, Psilos-Labini and Modigliani, and we have seen that there are scale barriers that new firm can enter only with the minimum size of the plant. They have to produce that much amount. So that is why they cannot enter if the price set is the limit price, and they know that they will not be getting any profits if they enter the industry. And you can find in the real life that how the prices are charged by the oligopolistic firms so that new firms don't enter and the competition does not increase, and the established firms go on getting the profits also without attracting the new entry. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so very much. Dear friends, your feedbacks are very, very important for us. We want you to write to us at info.cc@nic.in. So keep watching us and keep writing to us. So that is very, very essential for us. We will be meeting again very soon. Till then, take care. Goodbye. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.